Hello, Taurus. I'm Uma. This is your last horoscope for the year 2022. Welcome back, Taurus. So as I said, this is the last lunation for 2022. Can you believe it? I am coming to terms with that. It just so happens that it's in Capricorn and it's affecting your ninth house, which is where we expand our mind. So I think we've got a lot to discuss today, and there's going to be some great little tips and tricks and hints that I can urge you on to as far as your journey next year. Now, before I begin, I'm going to try things differently. Please like and subscribe to this video, share it with your friends, and I also offer birth chart readings via umaruby.com. I thought that I'd put that at the beginning of the video rather than at the end, and getting some advice gently here and there from people that are good at this. Anyhow, but let's focus on your ninth house, Taurus, and let's think about Capricorn and think about our understanding of that sign. Both earth signs, your brethren in some way, you know. The ninth house, which is where we expand our mind. It's where we travel to gain knowledge. It's where we learn philosophy. We learn, different spiritual teachings. This is a great lunation to have at the very end of a year, isn't it? There's something about this that you can, in the dark night, when the moon and the sun are both in Capricorn, at 1 degree too, which is quite a pertinent degree of the zodiac. It's quite fresh. We've just entered Capricorn season at this point, and we've got this lunation to start us off. So think about where it is that you might like to learn, venture, travel to next. What has this year, if you can reflect back on 2022 and all of the remarkable changes that occurred for you at the eclipses, it was a large year astrologically. So perhaps in some way that is a starting off point for you, or perhaps you're steeped in it already, and this lunation will be a great one for you to ask for the next teacher, or perhaps even ask for your first students. That might be a beautiful thing to ask for as well. I like to think of the ninth house as a kind of reciprocal space where we learn and we teach, and we learn and we teach. We expand our mind, we expand our heart, and we expand our conscious understanding of what it is that we might be here for and what life means. I think for Taurians, there's something so beautifully natural about the philosophy of what it is that we might be here for. The birds outside are screaming at me today. I can hear them chirping and chirping away. And I think that that's really emblematic of a Taurian's joy spot, right? So in that way of communing perhaps with the earth, of learning the tools of the earth, where would you like to take your next journey? What door would you like to open in that ninth house of yours? There's some tarot that we can describe with this astrology too. Yep. So at 1 degree of Capricorn, the tarot card in the minor arcana for that placement is the 2 of Pentacles. So there's a juggling act here, isn't there? There's almost kind of having to put both feet on the ground in order to find the center point to keep these two things up in the air. It's interesting, this card is also Jupiter in Capricorn energy. So think about that kind of burst of enthusiasm in that space, perhaps in the ninth house for you, and then thinking, okay, well, I've read half of that book, bit of that book, got those tabs open. I think that there's something here about consolidation at a Capricorn new moon. It's probably a really great time, and not to sort of rein it in, but maybe in some way to rein it in, but to refine it. We've got a square happening because Jupiter has just entered Aries, and so we'll be at 0 degrees of Aries, another juicy spot, squaring off with this lunation. And so the Two of Wands, that fire starter, that fire child journeyer that is looking out onto the distance, looking out to the next adventure. And Aries for you is your 12th house, right? Your sort of spiritual connection, your connection to all that lies beyond the High Priestess's veil. There is a square. So in some ways, I'm kind of thinking it might be a great lunation for you to sort out those practical earth-related details. So as far as getting a reading list consolidated so you can find joy in ticking them off. I know that you will, Taurus, as you read each one. It could be taking up a class in it could be herbalism. It's quite simply, it could be learning like permaculture or something like that, sort of learning about how to live off a localized bit of land, practical magic, that kind of thing. I like that the 9th and the 12th are in square at the moment because there is a sort of dissonance there. There is sort of, I think that there's something kind of academic maybe about the 9th. There's something sort of more formalized in that way. Not that we subscribe to dogma in any fashion with this stuff. It's probably good to just put that caveat in there when you're engaging in astrology, and especially when you're engaging in the tarot. I never want you to come across an environment where you're told that you're doing it wrong, because that's counterproductive. The tarot is such a beautiful tool for emotional regulation and also for meditation. We ask the cards many different questions, and we sit in a moment of hopefully centeredness and presence. And then through the rhythm, the pattern that we make with our hands, we find a story, and perhaps we find the answers that we kind of knew were in there already. That's how I want you to approach tarot from now on, I think, Taurus. I don't know if that could be completely irrelevant to your experience of the 9th. But I will say that, that's just seemed a really important thing to say. You've got all that you need right inside of you right now, Taurus, to read tarot, to read the planets, to engage with the earth. It might just simply be a question of starting, and this square perhaps between the vastness of the 12th house. There's a fear attached to the 12th house too, I could imagine, because it is limitless. It does connect us all. It does connect our experience with the past. It does connect our ability to journey in a magical way, and that can be frightening. So perhaps if there's perhaps you're having lots of dreams at the moment, is maybe what I'm feeling. Perhaps there's if I can just get these questions answered, then I can begin my study, or then I can be of some kind of place of right authority to begin teaching this stuff, or reading for other people, or engaging in a spiritual practice. I think to regulate yourself, harness your Capricorn, harness that sort of responsibility, that practicality, that discipline. That might help you actually have greater access to the 12th. Because it's kind of like, I remember when I was taught to ride a bike, and it was only very recently, and it was a beautiful experience once I got out of my own way, once I sort of worked with my Capricorn rather than against my Capricorn. There's something that there's unfortunately, there is definitely a resistance in a Capricornian sense. So I'm not sure, Taurus, if you've got planets in Capricorn too, you might be able to identify with this. If you've got planets in your ninth house, you know, perhaps there's an extra emphasis on that sort of, you know, authoritarian in some way that disallows the magic of the physical act. You're really good at the magic of the physical act, Taurus. So I know I'm sort of hopping from sentiment to sentiment. For your own benefit, and at this lunation in particular, at this end of year new moon, the possibilities that might be afforded us next year, you can be responsible, practical, disciplined. You can build the foundations, perhaps, of your next course of study, your next practice. And then, as we become more comfortable with the idea of Jupiter existing in Aries, in your 12th, that's when we can start to open or peek behind that veil to give your practice an extra boost. Is this making sense? I really hope so. It's painting a nice picture, because I can see in some ways, we know that there's that Taurian propensity to act slowly, which I think is beautiful and measured and gorgeous and natural. You know, we plant seeds and we don't expect a tree to grow the next day. Well, some of us do. Taurians don't. Taurians know what it means to regulate and to be patient and to allow things to unfold. Maybe in some way there might be a resistance to jumping on in simply because you don't think that you're qualified. And that, I think, is an old system of hierarchy. And this isn't to say that I want you to be bolshy and get out there and start spewing forth content. It's not so much about that. That's kind of, you're a Taurus, so whatever you produce is going to be divine. And I think I just don't want for any habitual Capricornian tendencies. Let's have a look at the devil for a moment. This is Capricorn energy, and Capricorns know this card well, and they're on their path and journey to reconcile with this. But there is habitual tendencies involved in this card. And if your habitual tendency, Taurus, is to deny yourself your first draft because it's not perfect yet, or the information isn't perfect yet, this is where I'm kind of maybe urging you to get your bearings, get your everything sorted, but begin. Maybe if you even just look at this Capricorn new moon as the perfect time in your diary. So let's think Friday the 23rd of December, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. So that's the night before Christmas Eve. That would be a great night to set the intention, to begin this new spiritual quest of yours. It's fun and it's really healing. And the best part of it is that at times of such division, such polarity, I know we've spoken about that a little bit, and I'm coming to understand even more why this work is ringing so true to me, because it connects us all. I think the old way of looking at astrology, which is to prescribe and separate us into, well, this sign does this and this sign does this and they won't get along. I think that that's on its way to its next evolution. And that evolution, as we're entering that little age of Aquarius, is to remind us that we actually are all connected. We have all of this zodiacal energy in our chart. If you've not had a look at your birth chart yet, I thoroughly recommend that you do, so you can see what I mean. We have every single constellation of the zodiac playing out in our lives in some way. That's why I give these horoscopes so regularly. because the moon's a great marker point for us all to remind ourselves of that rhythm. I think that you are smart enough, Taurus, and I think that what it is that you're cooking up, what it is that perhaps you've learned during eclipse season when it comes to these difficult shedding moments, maybe of the mode in which you used to operate has fallen away for good cause. Now is the time for you to seek out either a teacher or the confidence to gather around a little group and share with them what you know. There's nothing sweeter than sitting cross-legged with your mates and reading their tarot. And I hope that my friends can agree with that. Maybe, yeah, well, I'm not a pusher, but it is a lot of fun. And it does connect us, and it does invigorate the beautiful, gentle, empathetic, caring side of us that is interested in the other, interested in their journey, interested in their particular map of the cosmos. We all have one of these. The variants are so beautiful because that's where the conversation begins. Rather than the divisive nature of that, it gathers us around. Yeah, that's your astrology pep talk for the end of the year, Taurus. I don't know if that was helpful. I hope it was. Again, we didn't do any intuitive tarot, but on that, let me know what you'd like to see on this channel for the new year. I'm drafting up my schedule for next year, and I want to commit even further than I already have. I love these horoscopes every fortnight. They're such a great way for me to learn and share what I know every 2 weeks. As far as, pick your cards or, give me some suggestions of what it is that you might like to see from my perspective. If you're enjoying learning about this stuff from me, I'd love to hear some thoughts about where we can take it next. Again, head over to umaruby.com and I can read your birth chart. You can book for next year as well. You don't have to book. I know the next couple of weeks are going to be hectic, but maybe treat yourself for a reading next year. There's lots of major transits happening in March, so we'll be talking about them as time goes on. But there is some big era shifts occurring for us in 2023 and in 2024 for sure. Anyway, I'm babbling and you've got no more sand, so I've got to go. I love you very much, Taurus, and I'll speak to you next year. Bye.